Glad I took the long road. Shortcuts to the game, that's a no-no. Least traveled on my journey, I'm a lone soul. Dark times got me glow. Everything I needed was on this path, I swear I never cheated. Pushing for a reason. So many times I fell, but I got back on my feet. So that's why I'm undefeated, no.
What's up, everybody? This is Mo, man. You're now joining us with our 4th edition with Mike Double Mo. I got my special guest with me.
Oh, Dre Hopson.
Hey, so Dre, tell us a little bit about what you do.
Well, I always hate when people ask me like what I do because, I wear a lot of different hats. Mm-hmm. I guess you can primarily say that I'm in the music business. I'm a manager, A&R, and just overall music executive, by trade. I have a company that's called High Res Global, which is a full-service entertainment company. I do management, do artist development, do publishing, branding, marketing, all of it. I'm also an A&R at Asylum Records and Atlantic Records. My company has I have partnerships with Motown Records, Epic Records, Atlantic Records, a couple of independents like Rostrum and AWOL. So really, I find talent, develop it, and try to partner with other labels to take them to the next level.
Where you from?
Oh, I'm from PG County, from Temple Hills to be specific.
Right. So in my first season, right, doing this Mike Double Mo, what I wanted to focus on people that impacts the game or the music industry outside of being the artist or being a player. Right. And the only people I'm going to have on this show right now is just going to be people that's from the DMV.
Okay.
I want to show people how powerful we are, right? How much of an influence we have on the game and how much influence we have on the industry.
Right.
But a lot of times people don't know that we even exist or know that we're from these certain areas, right?
For sure.
Like, what would you say is one of the reasons why people might not even know, like, we're all from this PG County area?
I guess, well, geography, if you start in that its simplest form, is because what other place where somebody has to specifically say what county they from to even describe where they from? Like, if somebody say, I'm from Chicago, they just from Chicago.
Right.
They ain't tell you, well, I'm from Warsaw County in Illinois. Like, that's very specific. But for us, because this metropolitan area that where we grew up at, first of all, DC not being a state, it allows for a lot of migration and a lot of gray area on where people consider themselves to be from.
Right.
And the suburbs of Washington is technically not in Washington.
Right.
So the suburbs of Washington is, Northern Virginia, Montgomery County, PG County, Charles County. So that's why you got to say, well, I'm from this county or that county, because, it get real technical when people say I'm from DC, and then when people say what part and you got to name a county, you already know the duality in that.
I'm used to saying it because usually when you say from Maryland, people say Baltimore.
Exactly.
That's the first.
And that's another thing that throws a monkey wrench in the whole where you from out here, because Baltimore is so close in the vicinity to PG County and the Washington metro area. So it's even hard to like decipher which metropolitan area you're a part of. If you're a part of Baltimore's metropolitan area or DC's metropolitan area. Because once you get to like Northern Laurel and Howard County, are you a Baltimore suburb or you a DC suburb?
Right.
So,
good point.
People just be like, man, that's why, as much as DC natives don't like the term DMV, when you go outside of here, it's really the only thing that makes sense. Right. Because it's what represents numerically, and how you can quantify, power is numbers. So if you're looking at, how many impressions or how many people I could touch by marketing a product or marketing whatever I'm trying to do in this area, it's not just going to be zoomed in on a county or zoomed in on a small, it's going to be this entire region.
Right.
So just like our radio stations go from Frederick, Maryland to Fredericksburg, Virginia, it's all encompassing. So the only thing that makes sense to say is the DMV, because it represents who you marketing to when you look at us as a region. Basically any other metropolitan area, and you look at that, I guess you look at that radius of who you serving, it would be one city anywhere else. So like if you said St. Louis,
right,
this area that we live in would be all one place, or Chicago, or New York. New York got boroughs, but they still New York.
Right.
LA County is huge. So whether you downtown LA or out in the valley, you still in LA.
Right.
So we probably the only people or the only area that's a big city that got that distinguishing quality that we gotta kind of zoom in on exactly the 10 square mile radius of where we actually from.
Right.
And that's a hindrance too.
Why you say
I say it's a hindrance because it never really allows us to unify. Because those that are native to DC gonna automatically discredit if a guy say, oh, I'm from DC, and he actually from PG, even though he might live on Branch Avenue, he could put his feet in both.
Right, facts.
You know what I'm saying? So we really, in order to like jump the hurdles that we looking to jump, and I'm talking about like in order to get behind each other, and like, people always like, well, look at it, how Atlanta move, or look how this place moving. I mean, it starts with being able to say we from the same place.
No, that's true. That's true, man. That's true. So the fact that you seem so knowledgeable about like this area, this geographic area and things like that, I already know you probably already spoke a lot on that. Right. Now I know you're big in marketing.
Okay.
Big in marketing.
Yep.
And you're someone that I always lean on when it comes to like marketing advice, like, product placement and things like that, right? What about like growing up, or what about like being in the industry? What made you like so good at that, or what made you jump into that particular area?
Especially from being out here, one thing about from being out here, it's like, anywhere else, street culture kind of dictates sports, music, and anything else that you want to do that's going to resonate with the urban community.
Right.
So your name got to kind of carry weight.
Right.
And meaning that you got to find a way to be known for something, or that when your name is mentioned, that people know it's solid. So I guess we all, a certain aspect, we market ourselves from a very young age. Whether we know how to do it in a corporate aspect, we marketing ourselves just in the community. Like, he know how to play ball when he come to the court. Like, it's always you on stage. Because one thing about this area that a lot of different areas have is either street cosigns where it's like a gang culture. We don't have that.
Right.
It ain't no big homie that can say, oh, shorty good, and then, man, you gotta go show up and prove yourself amongst every little circle of people that there is in the community in order to have a name. And with us, that started way before social media. So it was just, oh, number 37 for Camp Springs, or number 2 for Silver Hill, or XYZ. That was just, we had to carry ourselves a certain way and be a dog. That was our marketing. And, I guess it started as early as that for me, but then I had to learn how to turn that on by watching other people in order to be able to monetize that. Because one thing to market, it's one thing to fake your way to the table where at least you're in the conversation, but then there's another thing to actually be able to quantify that and then to monetize it on top of that, to be able to show people your influence and what it's worth. So my biggest thing was I always wanted to feel like I wasn't working. So naturally for me, music, sports, fashion, all that for me is stuff that I would do for free. But I wanted to show how I needed to figure out a way to show how my influence was quantifiable to my people in my community, so that I could monetize it, so that I could make a living from doing it. So I had to figure it out on the fly, of a lot of trial and error of, okay, let me show people how much influence I got, when I walk into a place or when I post something on social media. And it was a lot of just trial by fire. But I say consistency, is the best teacher.
Right.
And I just kept at it until, I guess Kenny Burns always told me if you be yourself for long enough that they'll pay you for it. And I finally figured it out.
Hey, so all right, so you said the best teacher, right?
Yeah.
I know coming up, I had guys that kind of showed me the way, or like the training business and things like that, or like anything that I ever was trying to do. I always kind of found someone that was very knowledgeable of it, right, and just kind of asked them, pick their brains and things like that. Is there anybody in particular that you kind of linked on?
It's been a lot of people along the way that have showed me different aspects, and I combined them all. But I would say like the most consistent over the years, like since I was of age, probably been like Jerry Vines and Nate Peake, because even still to this day, that I still lean on them for advice, and it's dope to me that the dynamic of our relationships is changing because they look to me for advice on things now because of the way that things evolve, and the way that you got to know the nuances of the new business and the way things are moving in the digital age. So they asked me about things, and I asked them about stuff that they've been doing for years, and it's dope when your mentors become your peers. Right. Finally. So I got a shout out to Jerry and Nate because I watched them do this thing for years, and they really impacted on who I wanted to be by looking up to them.
But I like how you say peers, right? Like it's so heavy in this area like that.
I don't think it's just this area. I think it's our community in general. For whatever reasons, people believe that another person's success is in the way of your blessings. And I mean, I never understood that, but I feel like, me personally, what I try to do is just, especially those people that I know that got stuff to say about me behind closed doors, I try to kill them with kindness, or even throw them opportunities that they wouldn't expect to make them feel idiotic. Mm-hmm. Because at a certain point, it's going to get to, especially if you come from this area, you're going to cross my path in what you're trying to do. So, I mean, I feel like if I set the tone for, uplifting other people believe that another person's success is in the way of your blessings. And I mean, I never understood that, but I feel like, me personally, what I try to do is just, especially those people that I know that got stuff to say about me behind closed doors, I try to kill them with kindness, or even throw them opportunities that they wouldn't expect to make them feel idiotic. Mm-hmm. Because at a certain point, it's going to get to, especially if you come from this area, you're going to cross my path in what you're trying to do. So, I mean, I feel like if I set the tone for, uplifting other people and empowering other people, that, eventually it'll be reciprocated. Because you're going to come across somebody where you trying to tell them a story where they speaking bad about you, and somebody going to ask them, well, what did he do to you? Right. And, when they really sit there and think about it, they're going to have to really he ain't really do nothing. And nobody really wants to sound like a hater. Right. But so, I mean, I would just hope and pray that, guys listening to themselves talk, after a while they realize, man, really, I'm just hating. Mm-hmm. And that 9 times out of 10, that's what it is. Don't know you personally, haven't never interacted with you, but they just feel like, a lot of times it's admiration, but their fear won't allow them to do what you do, or go about it the way that you're going about it. Right. Like, it take a lot to take yourself serious enough, especially when you just starting out and you know that you don't got everything together, to step that first foot forward and present yourself as if you do. Because a lot of people will say that's if you fake it till you make it. But that's not even faking it. That's just projecting where you want to be. Right. I'm projecting where I want to be, or I'm speaking it into existence, or I'm taking the first step in the direction where I'm trying to go. Right. So, and there's a lot of people who hate on that. Oh, man, this gym ain't really like that. Like, man, this gym 30 feet by 30 feet, man. It's like, man, so what? I'm starting where I'm at. Right. But next thing you know, I'm going to have a 3,000 by 3,000 or whatever it is. Right. So, I mean, that's the biggest thing. Whenever you stepping out doing something in the public eye, you got to be ready for the good that come with it and the bad that come with it. Right. If you take it personal and every little comment you wear it on your sleeve, like, you're going to come across as the bitter dude. Facts. So it's people who, got their little smart remarks on social media or whatever that I could react to. And then I realized, like, when they see two people arguing, it's hard to tell who the fool.
Right.
So it's like, I choose, especially at where I'm at in my life and at this age, it's like, if you're not threatening my family or how I eat, and what, like, but so, I mean, I would just hope and pray that, guys listening to themselves talk after a while, they realize, man, really, I'm just hating. And that 9 times out of 10, that's what it is. Don't know you personally, haven't never interacted with you, but they just feel like a lot of times it's admiration, but their fear won't allow them to do what you do, or go about it the way that you're going about it.
Right.
Like, it take a lot to take yourself serious enough, especially when you just starting out and you know that you don't got everything together,
right,
to step that first foot forward and present yourself as if you do. Because a lot of people will say that's if you fake it till you make it. But that's not even faking it. That's just projecting where you want to be.
Right. Right.
I'm projecting where I want to be, or I'm speaking it into existence, or I'm taking the first step in the direction where I'm trying to go.
Right.
So, and there's a lot of people who hate on that. Oh, man, this gym ain't really like that. Like, man, this gym 30 feet by 30 feet, man.
Right.
Like, but it's like, man, so what? I'm starting where I'm at.
Right.
But next thing you know, I'm going to have a 3,000 by 3,000 or whatever it is.
Right.
So, I mean, that's the biggest thing. Whenever you stepping out doing something in the public eye, you got to be ready for the good that come with it and the bad that come with it.
Right.
If you take it personal and every little comment you wear it on your sleeve,
right,
like, you're going to come across as the bitter dude.
Facts.
So, it's people who, got their little smart remarks on social media or whatever that I could react to. And then I realized, like, when they see two people arguing, it's hard to tell who the fool.
Right.
So it's like, I choose, especially at where I'm at in my life and at this age, it's like, if you're not threatening my family or how I eat, and what it really mean to me.
So it's funny, right? Because you always been like that. Okay. Let's go, everybody. Let's tune in, baby. What's up, fam? Welcome back to Mike Double Mo. I'm here with my special guest, Dre Hopkins. So Dre, me and you, we met each other through sports, right? Back when you played at Camp Springs, and I played at Peppermill, but I remember we used to come either scout you guys or scout like Lanham or something like that, right? But you was always, the way you are now, was always the same way. Like, you never allowed like that stuff to affect you. Like, people would say things, but you kind of was always like calm about things, right? Like, where it was just like, but you was competitive at the same time.
Right.
Right? How much of sports, if any, you think impacted the way you go about like life now, or go about like being in that music industry? Cause I know you as the athlete.
Right.
And then it was like, I would see you out. I just see you at, different times, and it was always love. But then I'd be like, dang, Dre a promoter now. And then it was like, then I'm looking at you, I'm like, damn, Dre got to deal with the liquor joint. I'm like, God, Dre move. But then it was like, all right, Dre not even in sports no more. Then I just seen how you posted the Dre the Mayor with the Wizards. So I said, man, that's tight, because it's like you always kind of, I guess, always stayed around sports.
Right.
But your main drive at one point was music. Right. But you kind of been able to have both of them like combined.
I really would say that first of all, to address what you were saying, like my temperament of staying calm, I mean, really, I had like a unique upbringing because, like, okay, my mom and dad were like super young when they had me. My mom was 16 and my dad was 17. So I was born on Andrews Air Force Base. So I lived on the Air Force Base till I was about 4. And then when my grandfather retired and moved to Temple Hills, of course, my mom was still living with my grandparents. So I'm in Temple Hills now. My dad always lived in Sea Pleasant, in Pickwick. So I'm half the week in Sea Pleasant, half the week in Temple Hills, which we know is two different.
Right.
Even they hate each other for a certain point, especially in that time. So I had the dynamic of having friends in Sea Pleasant. I'm like close friends, like Sandbox, and having close friends Sandbox in Temple Hills. So that dynamic alone just allowed me to, or taught me to deal with people in a certain fashion. And you know how it was growing up, in the late 80s, early 90s, like it was a different thing.
Right.
So, and talking slick to the wrong person could, have you in a bad place.
Right.
So I never tolerated disrespect, but I also never, I tried to avoid violence at all costs if I could. Now, of course, like any of us, we grew up rumbling all the time.
Right.
But I wasn't no start a fight type of guy.
Right.
So, it just taught me to deal with a lot of different emotions and a lot of different personalities. First and foremost. And then the athletic part of it was just to be accepted. The best way to be accepted by all communities was being good in sport.
Right.
So if you in your neighborhood dogging people in basketball and football, you was the man. Everybody like you anyway. They want you on their team.
Right.
So I made sure to be able to do that in every neighborhood I went. And so that's what drew me to sports. That's what everybody was doing where I grew up, and I was always a smaller guy, younger guy, and I wanted to be accepted. So when the neighborhood wasn't even playing, I was just working on being better so that when we all got together, I could shine. And I feel like that also instilled work ethic in me at an early age too, was just trying to compete, being smaller. So yeah, I mean that was a big part of me growing up in sports and to even start.
Gotcha. Now being a smaller guy, right?
Yeah.
So you're walking into these big companies, big names, or whatever it may be, right? And this you starting out. You at all, like, is that something that plays in your mind? Like so say with me, right? Me coming from Central.
Yeah.
Where we didn't have much. You know what I mean? Like we didn't have much.
Same with Crossland.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a whole nother conversation. You know what I mean? But like, no. But what I'm saying is, like, not having a lot, right? And going into college, that was like a chip on my shoulder.
Okay.
You know what I mean? That was one of those things of when times got right. I used to just always say to myself, man, these dudes could never grow up the way I grew up and make it to where I'm at right now. Right? And that kind of helped me anytime things got difficult. That's what I thought about.
Yeah. That was just the same for me. It just like to even get to some of the rooms that I get to now. We grew up in a place where like entertainment and professional athletics, to a certain standpoint, it's not here. Like you gotta go and find it, and in order to make enough noise to even be a part of it, you gotta be exceptional. So I lean on the fact that I'm even in the room, and what obstacles I had to endure to get in the room, to like kind of shrug off any nervousness or fear or doubt, because I'm already here.
Right.
And it's like, man, look at all the people that you had to shine above and beyond to even be sitting here at the table.
Right.
And to even go further than that, to kind of piggyback off what you were saying, a lot of time they back ain't been up against the wall like ours has, being from here. Like, it's just different circumstances. So it's like, I just look at it like, man, these people not built like me.
They're right.
Yeah.
Right. So that's cool, man, because I'm telling you, man, I used to play mind games myself, right?
Yeah.
And that's probably why even when I'm training these kids, I play mind games with them, where like I would always say, like, I went to this school, Wyoming Seminary, right? Where these guys were pretty well off. Like the prime minister of whatever, daughter or son was going there. Like, so it was like well off people. And I used to always say, like, when we get to like math class or we got to the English class, like they're using all these big words that I wasn't familiar with.
Right.
You know what I mean? Just being honest. Like, I mean, it was even to the point where if I'm reading a book, like if we're like, hey, you got this page and I got the next paragraph, whatever, I would look over the paragraph. So I'm not the one that's stumbling on the word.
Yeah.
So I can already start working on the word. That was just something I did, but it was like I'm in a room with people, they ain't grow up like I did, right? And everybody was different. Like you could tell I wasn't from where they were from, right?
For sure.
And I just did things like that, but that was the things that kind of got me over where I would just say to myself, like, man, they couldn't last. They couldn't last in your world.
For sure.
But you're lasting in theirs. Like you're succeeding in their world, right?
I mean,
that's just something that
and to even, you know, to speak to the academic part of it. So when I end up going to the University of Maryland College Park, I feel like PG public schools was nowhere near the preparation that we needed to academically be. First of all, I go from, you know, classroom size of my senior year, I was in like all AP courses because it didn't take a lot to shine in at Crossland, the school I was at. So it's only like 10 people in my class at a certain point when I'm doing AP English, AP Calculus, and all that in the 12th grade. So by the time I get to my freshman year at College Park, I'm in a class with 400 people. And first of all, you know, the biggest thing when we go to PG schools is like the behavioral aspect. Teacher having a problem just even teaching the lesson because people tripping.
Right.
But then, you know, you get to college and you realize they don't care if you get the lesson or not. We gonna get up here, we gonna say it, and if you get it, I mean, the test is gonna show who got it and who didn't. And then I started out as that I'm cool, I'm sitting in the back. And, you know, halfway through the semester, I'm realizing being cool sitting in the back, I'm not gonna make it. and then I realized that the people that's in them first 3 to 4 rows excelling, they collaborate. And they got the old tests, and they had the syllabus before the course started, and it was a whole little network going on. So by my second semester, I realized that most of those people that were excelling wasn't the people that were socially accepted. So I injected myself into that mix, and then I had to figure out, like, what could I barter and what could I offer these people in order for them to let me in. So I offered them social acceptance, and I'm throwing a party, I'm doing this at a club, and you wouldn't imagine how these kids who ain't never been cool in their life was so happy to be accepted by they looked at somebody that they thought was cool for them to let me in the mix. And then now that I'm playing a team sport and I'm going to office hours and I'm studying with these dudes that's straight A students, it turned into a different world for me.
Wow.
When I used to could do all of this by myself,
Right.
when it got to a certain level, it's like, if you don't have nobody to help you, you can't really excel. So, I mean, that was for me the first time where I really understood that while I had to kind of use some of those aspects of team building from sports in order to reach the goal that I was looking for. It's just like when you in the neighborhood and you looking around at the outside who just shooting around, you like, oh, all right, if we play, I'm gonna get him. And then it's the same thing. I'm looking at the class and I'm like, okay, I keep seeing Shawty getting the A area, like all the homeworks, and all right, I need a recruiter.
Right.
I'm putting my own study group together.
Right.
And next thing you know, I'm doing my thing in the class. But I had to do that in every class because I wasn't prepared. I wasn't prepared walking in the door. And I had to figure out a way, like, okay, how can I use what I know in order to get what I need out of this?
So okay. Now I know we talked a little bit before the show started as to what does some of your jobs entail now, right? And how you're saying, like, the recruiting, like looking at this person, looking at that person.
Yep.
Can you just explain how those two are very similar as to what you're doing now? So
with the music business, of course, so my role at Atlantic now, Atlantic and Asylum, is it's an A&R role. So a part of being an A&R is scouting talent, and then once you scout the talent, trying to close the deal with the talent, and then once you're in business together, then actually helping them put a product together. And helping them put the product together is everything from brand building to marketing to putting records together, deciding how to put together cohesive bodies of work, helping them secure features. All of it goes hand in hand. So basically, A&R touches like every aspect of an artist putting forward his art. And it's the same way I feel with grassroots AAU programs or coaching, or you go out, you seek talent, you develop it, and then you help put the best product on the floor or on the field. And So a lot of the work ethic and training aspect and team building and character building that goes along with what you do on the field and on the court. You can use a lot of those things if have you been involved in athletics for a long time in order to put somebody in the mind frame that they need to compete in athletics. I mean, in art, music and entertainment.
Now, let me ask you this, right? Now, you went to Crossing.
Yeah.
God bless you. And I went to Central. I mean, it ain't that much better.
Right.
But we didn't have like this whole training thing now.
At all.
That all these kids are now experiencing, like even with trainers, like it just wasn't, you didn't have trainers.
I wish we could have asked our parents to pay for somebody to train us.
So how much, like, if any, do you think, because even without the trainers, right, and all the resources that they have now,
yeah, right,
we didn't have that, but we were still succeeding. But we didn't have like social media, so we didn't have those platforms to be recruited and things like that, right?
Right.
How much, like, do you think? Well, I'm not gonna say how much difference would it be, because we can't really, determine that.
Right.
Right. But how, like, do you ever look at things now and say, like, damn, had I had that, maybe I wouldn't have had the experience that I had, or do you just say?
Well, I think it's all kind of it's objective, and it's kind of like relevant to the times. So like I think the competition level at an earlier age has been elevated because of, like you said, because of social media and mimicking. So like, he training his son at 3, I'm gonna start training my son at 3.
Right.
Where a lot of what we see people do now, people thought it might be too early for that when we were coming up, like especially like weight training and all that type of stuff. Like, I just think people just know a little bit more and the science of the body.
Right.
And even like that's even translated into the professional game, where you see like load management and people trying not to burn their body out and how much you can really take, and you see these early injuries on these young players because they've been, who knows like the actual long-term effect of training so early.
Right.
Like, I mean, you look at a player like Zion Williamson, like how large of a man that is, and him having those type of injuries because he probably been.
Pause. But go ahead, dog.
Cut that out. He's a big guy.
Right.
And him having them early injuries, like who knows what the long-term effect of him playing at that level is, what I'm saying? So, I mean, I think that it's just, I don't ever look at it like, oh, if I had that, I would have been this, because I think it happened the way that it was supposed to be. But I definitely think that there's more opportunity, but it's still, it's the pool of selection is larger now too. Because everybody in every corner of the world is competing for, I mean, like you look at the NBA, what is it? 12 spots, 15 spots, 31 teams. NFL a little bit bigger, but it's still like, I mean, it's like a needle in a haystack, or the chances are super slim on making it professionally. Right. So, I mean, I just feel like you got to just go the extra mile, and you truly got to be dedicated. And I mean, even like I get my son a trainer, and it's not necessarily in preparation for him to be a pro, but it's preparation of how you got to compete at life in general. Because not only is the selection process or the pool of people to pick from large in athletics, but it's large in every field. So you got to be the best of the best at what you do, and that means like you got to have a mindset and be ready to compete in whatever it is that you're trying to do. And I think that being able to have that dedication at an early age to get up and do extra work outside of what you do with your team is it's setting you up for success in no matter what you're going to do.
Are you still like? Do you still go to like high school games like in this area? Like, do you still like stay in touch with this area in sports? Or?
When I can. I definitely go to all my son's AAU stuff, and I keep abreast of who is who is who in the high school game by, social media, and some of the trainers that train my son train the older guys. So that's how I learn about, some of the names of, and even who you train. I see some of those same guys, at different gyms. So I'm like, okay. And it seems like the top names in training end up sharing
the same guys.
Yeah. So, and that's good. I like to see that everybody is kind of creating I guess you would say a tribe in order to, help the cream of the crop rise.
Right.
And that's special. Like, I mean, we haven't had a lot of that either. And I think that, us watching other areas, show community, I think it's helping us kind of finally take that step forward of like, man, look, we all can eat.
Right.
Like, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I think that's big too for us, as taking a step forward as a community.
So let me ask you this, because I know you're a busy guy, man. So what do you have like for the future? Like, what plans do you have?
Man, for real, I know the pandemic has been a tough time, especially like because it's been a time where people had to pivot and change up the way that they do things. But I would say it was kind of like a blessing in disguise for a lot of people, especially for me, because it allowed me to slow down and analyze the way I was doing stuff and what is working and what's not working. And to kind of like realize that you got to be prepared for the unexpected or what, like, you never know what tomorrow's gonna bring. Like, it's been so many changes over the last 12 months that it's like, okay, man, you really got to have your back end or your back office in order, in order to be ready for whatever changes that the world might bring your way. So, I kind of going into 2021, I really have been intentional about, for one, I want to normalize, like, a lot of people say don't mix business and family or don't mix business and friends. Like, I really want to normalize, starting businesses with my friends and elevating my friends with gifts. I'm getting ready to open up a custom auto shop called BWI Motorsports. I've always had an affinity for cars and accessories and rims and wraps and I going back and forth to LA a lot, I see like Platinum Motorsports and RDB and West Coast Customs and stuff like that, and I felt like we didn't really have nothing that I could really point my finger to that competes on that level.
Right.
So one of my homies, Kai, he's been in the window tinting business for a long time, and I always had to push him to. But a lot of people sometimes that are great at something don't even know how great they are. They just do it.
Right.
And like you said, like we were talking off camera, it's always been about, nowadays it's about branding yourself and putting yourself in front of the camera in order for people to see how great you are. Right. And not everybody is comfortable with doing that or good at doing that.
Right.
So my strength, of course, is relationships and marketing and bringing, and bringing shining light on people and products. So I thought our marriage could be perfect on me, helping me shine a light on his talent and then bringing people together in order to create a shop that, we could curate projects that I think could compete on a national level. So, he found a dope spot. I came up with the concept for the shop. We right near the airport, so I decided to call it BWI. We want to, do customs and go as far as exotic rentals. So, we taking that step in 2021 to be open in about a month or so. Of course, I want to further my role at Atlantic and Asylum. I'm looking to sign my first acts there. When I first took the position, the pandemic hit, so I had a couple deals on the table for artists that I was trying to sign locally, but it just wasn't the time because with this pandemic, like, you aren't able to move around and promote a record like you normally would inside the clubs and go in and do a promo tour and touch the radio stations, touch the DJs and stuff. Like, everything is kind of like digital and Zoom now. So developing acts is a little tough. Or it was a little tough at the beginning of the pandemic to see where it was going to go. But I think, it's turning the corner now where labels are more comfortable with signing, developing talent. So I'm looking to sign my first couple acts at Asylum in Atlantic. As far as my company, High Res Global goes, I'm signing new acts. I just partnered with Pusha T on two 15-year-old and a 16-year-old kid from Woodbridge, Virginia, that I really think are super talented, and we're gonna be releasing some music on them real soon. I'm looking to sign a artist from DC, and I'm partnering with my guy G Mogul from the museum on my company with that. We also just did a mental health clinic. Above All Odds, Maryland. Above All Odds was a company that started out in Baltimore, and they wanted to look to get into PG County, and they knew that a lot of my relationships and strength lie in the county. So we partnered on the office in Largo. So me and G Mogul are doing that, and man, I'm just looking for things that have synergy. So for me, that's art, music, fashion, cars, lifestyle. Because I want to never feel like I'm working. So the stuff that I'm naturally interested in, I always try to figure out a way, how can we monetize that interest?
Oh, that's dope, man. So man, I appreciate you being on the show.
No,
you know what I'm saying? Known you for years. You know what I'm saying? If you ever need an MC or something, let me know. GPT. But yeah, man. So nah, man, I appreciate you being on the show, man, and wish you nothing but success. I know we're gonna stay in touch like we've been doing.
Absolutely.
I hope you guys enjoyed the show, man. We're gonna wrap this up. Tune in next week, man. We got another Mike Double Mo. I got another special guest, but I won't tell y'all who it is yet.
Glad I took the long road. Shortcuts to the game, that's a no-no. Least traveled on my journey, I'm a lone soul. Dark times gave me glow. Everything I needed was on this path, I swear I never cheated. Pushing for a reason. So many times I fell, but I got back on my feet. So that's why I'm undefeated, no.